So I didn't use social media for a month, and here's what happened. Now, to start, I think it's important to note that I was very conscious of my social media consumption, but even then, there was a lot that I got out of it. Now, I hesitate to use the word bored because I was definitely not bored, but I was understimulated, and that is probably one of the best feelings in the entire world. I feel like I naturally am already super sensitive to stimulation, so being understimulated and underwhelmed was a nice little treat. It was nice not having noise. It was nice not having a constant feed of different things that people are doing and other people are eating and other people are seeing and exploring and traveling, and like it was just really underwhelming, but in the most beautiful way. And yes, my daughter painted my nails yesterday, so I just have one nice pink little hand. Now, I kind of wanted to start with the Now, I wanted to start with the more obvious ones. Or no. I wanted to shine a light on the more unobvious things that happened. First one, juicy one. My husband and I were very intimate, very frequently. And that was not something I had expected. And I think there's a couple of different reasons why. One, we were focused on each other a lot more. And so we had more lulls throughout the day, or maybe we set aside more time, or I don't know. I also think we weren't as distracted. If there was a chance or a moment, you know. And it was really fun to see the different ways, I don't know. This was not something I had expected, but it was really fun. It was really nice. I feel like it has spiced things up in a way that we haven't before. And so that was a nice little benefit. I also picked up quite a few hobbies. I learned a couple of new things, and I challenged myself in a different way. Now, if you guys have followed me before, you saw that I had started embroidery. It was fun, but this actually gave me an opportunity to finish what I had started and explore different techniques, explore different things, and just really enjoy the process of embroidery and bringing a piece to life. I also started to make bread. Now, I know this is so basic, and I had wanted to do this for so long but didn't because I just thought it was so overrated, it was so overdone. Like, every homemaker that you know makes their own sourdough bread, and I was like, I just don't want to do that. I feel like that's just, everyone's already doing that. I just don't want to. And so that was stopping me for the longest time, and then I was like, you know what, that's so silly. Like, if I like sourdough and if I want to make bread for my family, I'm just gonna do that. I don't really care who else is doing it as well. So I picked that up, and it has been one of my favorite things ever, you guys. It is so easy to do, and I've done it in a way that caters and works for our family. Actual like sourdough bread, like a loaf of bread, is not something that's really practical for us. We don't really like eat bread with a lot of meals. My kids don't really like sandwiches, and so that also seemed kind of impractical, but we do love bagels. And so I have explored and done bagels, and my kids have loved it. My husband has loved it. It has been so beautiful and so fun to do. My kids love it and enjoy doing it with me. It's been such a nice bonding experience, and I don't think I've ever spent so much time in my kitchen and enjoyed the time in there. I've really, it's been really beautiful to watch and witness. My role as a mother, wife, and homemaker, I've never gotten so much satisfaction out of being a mother, wife, and a homemaker, and just really been content and in love with that calling that the Lord has called me into right now in this season. And I have been so blessed and encouraged by it. And I feel like the thing that I've lived by this month has been enjoy the mundane and thrive in the mundane. And I really feel like that is the best way to describe how this last month has been, because it's given me a chance to really just sit back and enjoy. And things that normally probably would have irritated me didn't bring me much irritation at all, because I was so present and in the moment that I was able to probably understand a little bit more. So a really quick example of that is if one of my kids had come to me crying and they were fighting and had an argument together, if I was removed and working or just like on my phone for a second, I probably would have missed a lot of the background story. And because my kids aren't really at the age where they're fully able to explain the full details of things, it would have probably irritated me because I would have been like, well, just don't take that person's toy and do this instead of da. But because I was just so present and so in the moment, I was able to see exactly what had happened, and I'd be able to pinpoint exactly the issue. And it wasn't even so much about sharing toys. It was more so that someone worked really hard on a project and someone knocked it over, you know? So I feel like I was way more just there and able to pick on these little tiny cues, which made motherhood so much more enjoyable. And same with being a wife. Like, I have been able to pick on little cues of my husband, and I feel like I've been able to serve and submit to him in a way that I haven't been able to, just because I was probably just distracted. And so I feel like I started off my day knowing and thinking about how I can best serve him and how he can best lead me and how I can make his day just so much better. And entail, again, that was just kind of like overflowing into everything else. I also feel like that's why we were so intimate this month too, because everything just kind of overflowed into one another. And same with just taking care of the home. I organized and decluttered and organized every square inch of this house, you guys, every square inch. And it was so satisfying. And I think that brought me a lot of joy and pride to know exactly where all my things were, to have such order and structure in the home. And then that made it so much easier for my kids because they were structure and order for them and their routine in their life. And so it wasn't all this like chaos and noise. It was just really understimulating and just peaceful and enjoyable. Now, let's state some of the more obvious ones. I spent a lot of time outside. We have tried doing 1,000 hours outside this year. And let me just say, we've probably doubled or tripled our time outside just because we have been able to, and it's been nicer weather, which was very convenient. We had so many lake days. We got so many sunburns. We were able to explore and just be outside and just listen to the birds chirping. There's truly nothing more enjoyable to me than birds chirping. I get so much delight from hearing them chirp. Is that weird? I don't know, but it just really, I just feel like Snow White in the morning when the birds are chirping and I'm like opening up the curtains. It's just so blissful to me. This tripod, man. Not it. Oh, this. If you get anything out of this video, I hope it's this little point. I have never called, FaceTimed, and texted my friends as much as I have during this past month. And it's really easy to pinpoint why. Because I wasn't seeing their stories. I wasn't seeing their videos. I wasn't seeing stuff that they were posting online. So if I wanted to know what was going on in a friend's life, I had to go out of my way to message them and ask them, or call them and chat with them. And it has been such an enjoyable thing. I will make a separate video on this, but I'm really looking forward to see the differences and changes that I make moving forward, because I think there's no point of doing all of this and then going right back to how things were. And so for me, I think there's gonna be a couple of different things that I change. Because I was able to not see what was going on in my friends' lives, and my mother and my sister and those around me, I frequently FaceTimed them, and that was so much fun. It was so fun for my friends to pick up the phone. That's not something people do anymore. Nobody really calls their friends anymore because, one, it feels kind of awkward, and two, you don't really need to because you see what they're doing online and on social media. So it's like, well, you already know what's up. You know that they ate pasta for dinner last night and that their kid was watching Blippi this morning. There's not, you know, you kind of already know. So it was really nice not knowing and then getting to ask, and then genuinely having a more deeper connection with my friends because they saw that I genuinely had an interest in what was going on in their life. And so that was really fun. And I really enjoyed the FaceTime calls and the times that I got to talk with people. And I just felt so much more available to my friends and just so eager to serve and bless and help them in any way that I could. I also feel like I was finally able to find me and find what I like to do, because sometimes subconsciously the internet and social media influences us very heavily, whether you realize it or not, subconsciously or subconsciously. And I think I was de-influenced. And so when I started to go make dinner, I would ask myself, what do I want to eat? What do my kids like to eat? And it wasn't so like I saw someone ate a burger on my stories earlier and I was like, oh, a burger sounds good. I'll just make burgers. There was no part of my life that was influenced by anyone else. And so that felt really refreshing because I didn't even realize how much it was affecting the way that I thought, or it was affecting things that I was doing. I've never felt more confident as a mother because I wasn't seeing all these accounts and what they were posting and the way you should talk to them and the way you should gentle talk to, like, if you follow different accounts like that, you know how sometimes it can be very overwhelming because it's an oversaturation of information. And so even though your child might not like be dealing with the exact thing that they post that day, it's subconsciously in your mind. And so then you're thinking about that, and it was distracting me. And it wasn't allowing me to do what I felt like the Lord was calling me to do with my children. I was more so just following and being like, okay, well, they suggested this and that worked for their kids, so therefore I'm gonna do it too. I didn't consider what the Lord was calling me to do for my children and how my children are catered to differently and how every situation and child and scenario is just so different. So great, that may have worked for them, but it was really nice for me not to have that influence. And so I felt very powerful in my motherhood because I was relying solely on what the Lord was calling me to do and what I felt like my child needed within that moment. And so that was super empowering and just refreshing, and a thing that I really want to take away from this month off. Now, that leaves me with the question of what am I going to be doing different? And that's still something I am thinking about and pondering because, again, I think it's a waste of time to take this month off and to have that pause, but then run right back into how things were. And so I'm sitting here just really thinking about what I'll be doing different and what boundaries I'm gonna set up. I think the older I've gotten, I feel like a lot of people realize this too, but the older I've gotten, the more beautiful and delicious boundaries have sounded because they enable and give you the opportunity to do so much more when you have those boundaries up. They give you the ability to explore, it gives you the ability to thrive, and I truly thrive with boundaries. And so I'm going to be praying about it for the next couple of days to really see the boundaries that I'll set in place and the things that I'll take away from this and what that could look like. But if you have gone through something like this before, or if you have not had a chance to just take a break from social media, even if it's just for a week, it doesn't have to be a month, and it doesn't have to just be a month, it could be 6 months or forever. I think there's so much beauty in social media when you use it correctly. And I was to the point where I don't think I was using it correctly, and it was starting to do more harm than good. And so I think a pause and a break, an evaluation of where you're at is always super important to be able to utilize the things and the resources that we have for the best and not for the worst. So I'm super excited. I am so thankful for this month off. I'm so thankful for you guys and your patience with me as I took this month off. I am feeling so spiritually hydrated and so creatively refreshed that moving forward, I am very much so looking forward to the fruits that this will bear. And so, it was a good one. It was a good one. If you have taken a break before, or if you have set boundaries up for yourself before on social media, leave a comment down below and let me know what those are. I'm so curious to know like what your restrictions are for yourself or the boundaries that you have. Like, do you not go on in the morning until you do X, Y, and Z? Or do you cut it off at a certain point and like you and your spouse put your phones away until the next morning? Like, give me those types of details because that's what I'm really interested to see what has worked for people and what that would look like. So I love you guys. I'm excited to be back.